All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Everything Combat. Look, this isn't all about fighting, of course. This is about life in general because life is a fight. Success stories come in many, many forms, whether it be in the ring, in the cage, on a wrestling mat, in life in general, in business, in health, overcoming obesity, health problems, cancer, everything. So we have, I think, one of the greatest guest we could have ever landed, to be honest with you. The guy that didn't even like my co-host at first, but this man is a three-time world bench press champion, three-time strict curl champion. He was born in Arkansas, which I love that state, and then moved to California as a youngster with his mother and father, and have a little bit in common with him. Rough upbringings, abusive fathers, and we'll get more into that story about his life. But I tell you what, the first time I saw a video of this man, which has had well over, I think, 20 million views of that video,
yeah.
was this man introducing to us a gentleman he called the Hulk. I looked at these two guys, being a guy who was, look, I've handled a lot of people in my life. I've dealt with some pretty rough cats. And I went, there's no way I'm even going in that gym to lift weights around these dudes. So with no further ado, though, I want to welcome CT Fletcher. Thank you, sir. How are you?
Oh, I am blessed, champ. And let me say that I am a big-ass fan of the Croatian sensation, Pat Miletich.
Well, I appreciate that
Big,
a lot,
big
brother.
fan.
I appreciate that a lot. And I'm serious. It was terrifying to watch that video. I just went back and watched that video yesterday and today, and I think I'll watch that video till the day I die. I'll watch that thing and go run. I'll go run 20 miles just from watching that thing. It's truly truly impressive, and you've obviously inspired a lot of people. But recently, I want to hit the most recent first of all because of everything you've gone through in life. I just want to hit it right away because you had heart problems. You had serious heart problems, and thank God you were able to find a heart and get a transplant in May of this year, which, we might not be doing this interview had you not got that. So, God's great.
Definitely,
God's great when it comes to
wouldn't
that.
be doing it, champ. Definitely, no way I'd be here if it wasn't for that transplant.
So, and there's some history in your family, obviously a lot of history of heart problems. So, I mean, you had to think to yourself, even when you were quite a bit younger, before you had heart problems, that you were probably nervous about it, weren't you?
Well, to tell you the truth, champ, when I was young, I thought I was indestructible.
Well, you kind of were at that point,
It was gonna, like I'm sure you did,
right?
when you're young. I thought that my mom's side was filled with heart problems, but on my dad's side, they lived a long time. So I was hoping that I would take my dad's genetic side and not have the problems. And I just felt like I was indestructible anyway when I was young and dumb.
Right,
so I
right.
didn't think I was going to have them.
Yeah. So when did you first start noticing that you were having some issues?
Well, I started having a lot of breathing problems, and I've been rushed to the emergency room several times just because I couldn't breathe. I felt like a fish out of water on dry land, and they couldn't figure it out at first, and I thought maybe, just maybe, it was because I was 325 pounds and a little bit fat, so I said I'll lose some weight and maybe that'll do it. I lost a lot of weight. Yeah.
I'm sorry, did the 4 Big Macs a day, the 4 fries, the 4 apple pies, and the 2 shakes for a decade plus, did that probably couldn't have helped at all?
No, it probably couldn't help, but it damn sure tasted good, Jeff.
See, he recognized your voice right away, Jeff.
Yeah. Well, that's part of that feeling indestructible,
it didn't help, buddy.
Yeah. Well, you definitely put the size on, that's for sure.
So now that
that is for sure.
And for all the people out there, I mean, on the back of my license, obviously, I'm a donor. Hopefully, that I don't become a donor soon. I'm sure that my heart and lungs and everything else could be used pretty well. Since I recently quit drinking a couple months ago, my liver will heal up real nice for somebody if I were to go quickly. But it's important to be a donor, right, CT?
It's very important, Sam, and I really didn't realize or appreciate how important until I myself needed a heart. Then I really, it really hits home. And then I did a lot of research, and I found about how many thousands of people die waiting on a heart.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, wow, when I made the list, what if I died because my heart had stopped 5 times before I received one. So
right.
I was like, oh, maybe I won't even make it.
So where do you go?
I didn't think of it. There was a good reason for me making it and somebody else not making it either.
Yeah, I'm sure that there's some thoughts like that, when some people don't get one in time, and I'm sure that all you can do is pray about that. That there's nothing that's not your fault. But
and you waited for about a year, right? The heart attack was, I believe, in June of 2017, and then your new heart was May. Yes,
11 months. It was 11 months from the heart attack that I. And that, believe it or not, that's pretty fast.
Well, and this was not your first incident in facing such huge odds. You had emergency open heart surgery in 2005, and flatlined like 3 times. Talk about that a little bit.
That's exactly right, Jeff. You got a good memory.
I'm a huge fan, sir. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, that's right. Flatlined 3 times during that surgery. Of course, I didn't know anything about it until the doctor, one of the young doctors that assisted in the operation, let me know that, man, he said, man, we had to fight our asses off to get you back. It was 3 times you were gone.
Wow. And
we don't really know what happened. We can't really explain it, but you were out of here 3 times. We had to fight like hell. And I told him, well, you know what? That's when God stepped in, man. When you don't know what happened, then God must have been there, make the decision that it's still my set, still old man set. We'll let him keep going for a little while longer.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
3 flat lines during that surgery.
Well, and you brought up something that has stuck with me, and like anybody who knows you, it's still, we can't cuss. It's still your motherfucking set. And in our conversation that we had in previous podcasts, it wasn't just from weightlifting where that came from. Like, we can kind of rewind a little bit and go back to how important your mother was to you and her indomitable spirit of just, it's still your motherfucking set. I'm blessed. Talk to us about how that pretty much laid the pavement or laid the groundwork for your life and your spirit of just not giving up. And you got that from your mother, not necessarily from the gym.
Absolutely. 100%. My mother, in her, she passed away, and all 9 of her siblings all passed away from heart-related problems. So all of, my growing up, my mother was sick. She was sick. She had lung problems and heart problems, and I seen her sick my entire growing up life.
Right.
But whenever you ask my mother, I don't care what the situation was, and she was sick every day. I'd see my mom in the emergency room more times than I care to remember. But if you asked her, if Pat or Jeff asked my mom, how are you doing, Mrs. Fletcher? If she could get it out, she was going to say, I'm blessed. And I don't care what the situation was, she'd say, I'm blessed. So I learned that from my mom. I don't care what I'm going through, how hard it is, I'm blessed. And the reason she said but she wasn't telling you, how she physically felt, because it was obvious to see she didn't feel physically good. She was blessed because she was still alive. And she was blessed because she could still sit there and tell you she was blessed. She was just being grateful. She was just being grateful for being alive. So I learned that from her, and that's why I don't, I don't really excuses. That's another thing I like to say is fuck excuses.
Yes, sir.
Because she didn't give any, and I don't believe in giving any. So, Pat, when you hear a guy in your gym and in the militant system there, and he comes and he tells you, oh, Coach, I don't really want to do that because, I'm tired or my elbow hurts. I don't believe that Pat Miletich would accept excuses like that unless the guy had a really good excuse. I don't think Pat Miletich would accept it.
No,
am I right or
no?
am I
Oh,
wrong?
you're right. You're right. That's like calling into work and saying I won't be in today because I'm sleepy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that doesn't work. And you know what's crazy, dude? And I thought how many similarities there are between our fathers being like they were. My mom had 5 heart procedures. She died 3 years ago. She died 3 years ago. And what's crazy about it is my mom was a fighter. She taught me how to fight. And your mom taught you how to fight. And it's the coolest story. Our mothers were so strong. I looked at my mom long before I had kids. My siblings, my 3 brothers and my older sister were a lot older than me, CT. And they all had families, had their kids, all that sort of stuff. And I hadn't even started having kids yet. And I told my mom after it was, I think, her first or second heart procedure. And I said, you got to promise me. And she had developed a drinking problem also and had quit drinking. She overcame alcohol, and my family was cursed with that alcoholic bug. But I said to her, I said, you got to stick around long enough to meet all my kids. And she promised me she'd do that. And the crazy thing is, CT, wow. I had 2 daughters. Both are 16 and 14 now. And then we weren't going to have any more kids. And then we decided to have one more. And I've got a 4-year-old daughter. And my mom stuck around long enough to meet her, too, before she took off.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's crazy how similar our stories are.
It is. It's very crazy. I had no idea about that stuff. All I know is Pat Miletich is the badass fighter, man.
Well, I think something about our moms made us both pretty badass, That's the cool thing about it.
Hey, I give my mom all the credit, man. All the credit for, whatever I turned out to be, she gets the credit for it.
I wanted to ask you, CT, in some of the post-ops, that stuff, been seeing your progress, seeing your recovery, it's been absolutely amazing. And one of the videos, you really embodied, your mother's spirit of just feeling so blessed, feeling so fortunate for this not just second chance, this third chance. If you can, obviously you went through hell with your transplant. Talk to me and talk to us about the staff, the nursing, the bedside manner, how the people at the hospital really took care of you, and how that influenced how you have recovered thus far.
Well, Jeff, first of all, thank you is so insufficient a word to use, in the praise that I can get. The doctors, of course, they're super talented, and without them, I wouldn't be here. But the recovery after the operation, after they.
Hold on one sec, CT.
You there, CT?
Hold on one second. We got a storm coming in. CT.
I heard him.
Yeah.
I heard him.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. We lost you for a second. You said the doctors.
Yes, the doctors do perform the actual surgery. But those nurses, man, if it wasn't for those nurses, it was a time, a nurse came. I can give so many different incidents, but the nurses, I can't praise them enough. Nurse came in like 2 a.m, and I was going through it. The pain medication had wore off, and that nurse leaned over, and she whispered in my ear. She said, a lot of people, including me, are praying for you, Mr. Fletcher. You're going to be all right. Man, I felt like getting up right then, man. You do not. The bedside manner is so important. I had one of my doctors also, she brought me a Dr. Pepper because she heard my stomach was upset. She brought me a Dr. Pepper every day until my stomach calmed down. And that Dr. Pepper meant the world to me, man. It was just, the fact that she would take the time and go get it and bring it to me. She probably did it for a lot of patients, but she made me feel special.
Right.
And I tell you what, that goes a long way to helping a patient recover.
And there's certain people that are made to, the teachers of the world that care about the kids, the nurses, the doctors, the people that truly care about humanity. She was one of those people. They're angels.
Right.
Exactly. That's the way I look at it, champ. Those were my angels for sure.
Well, sort of kind of rewinding, we're jumping around a little bit. You know, after you got out of your surgery and even talking to you and seeing the magnificent obsession, seeing what you kind of went through with your father, I found it very fascinating, sir, that, you know, even as a 50-year-old man, you were still dealing with that, you know, at night times, waking up, still swinging at your father at 50 years old. And you had said, all I really wanted was for my dad to just be like, you know what, son, I'm sorry, I was wrong, et cetera, et cetera. And it sounds like you've gotten that of some form like that from your father, have you not?
Absolutely not.
What?
I'll tell you what. Yeah, no, Jeff. I'll tell you what. My dad just passed away last year. He was 86 years old.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And you know what you said was absolutely true. I wake up. I'm like 55, 56 years old, and I'm waking up in the middle of the night, punching and swinging, and you know, still fighting because I don't know about you, Pat, but my dad was a broken bone type of abuser. He broke my nose, you know, and I been rushed to the emergency room several times because of stuff that my dad had did to me.
Right. And
I don't know if it was that serious with your dad, but that's the kind of abuse I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But you know, if all I wanted, like you said, Jeff, was if my dad would have told me at any time before he passed away, you know, hey son, you know, I'm sorry, I fucked up. That would have been wonderful. I mean, that would have been enough for me to forgive everything. But you know, after my heart attack, I was tired of waking up in the middle of the night punches. I said, well, I'm not going to get his apology. So I don't want to die without, you know, with this still on my conscience. I don't want to die waking up punching through the night. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my dad and I'm going to apologize to him before I pass it. Because this, if my dad is perfectly fine with it, this is bothering me. This is keeping me up at night, and my hatred is eating me alive.
Right.
It was bothering. It was destroying me, man. My hatred was destroying me. So I said, in order to get this off me, I'm going to go to my dad. I'm going to tell him that I apologize to you. I told him, I said, I blamed you for a whole lot of stuff, and, you know, it's been eating me up. I don't know if it's been bothering you or not, but it's been eating me up. So I apologize to you. I don't want to leave this world with this type of animosity and hatred between us. So I'm apologizing to you.
What did he
say?
say?
And he was gracious enough to accept my apology.
He was gracious enough.
What did he say anything besides that?
He didn't say one word, Zach, not one word.
Wow.
It was interesting watching the documentary, that Magnificent Obsession, and, you know, you guys were in the house speaking and interviewing your father, and it was just interesting hearing your version and the way reality was for you, and then hearing your father say, you know, CT was a good son, he never really did anything wrong, and the look on your face, sir, you just, you know, you were gracious, you were chill, you didn't go off and be like, you lying MFer, you know, you gave your dad love and you left, but it was just interesting to how he was kind of still dictating this kind of false narrative about what kind of went down in the past.
Well, the thing that I was actually on edge, but I was waiting for his answer. The interviewer asked my dad, did he have any fond memories of, you know, me as a kid or things that me and him had done together? Could he think of any fond memories of CT as a kid? And that answer is what I was on the edge of my seat waiting for that answer. And possibly, Jeff, if he had given the wrong answer, the film might have turned out a different way. But when he asked my dad that, my dad had no answer for him. And I said, okay, that's cool because we're on the same one, because I don't have any fond memories. You know, like kids say, well, we went to the amusement park, we went camping, or my dad took me out for ice cream or some shit like that. You know, most kids have some good memory of their childhood, and I was just I wondered if he was going to make up one or not, you know. So I'm sitting there on the edge of my seat saying, okay, now what are you going to say? What fond memories do you have? Because I don't have any. But luckily, he didn't have any either, so, it turned out good.
Right. Well, it's good to hear, even though you didn't get that apology, that, your kind of spiritual growth has allowed you to kind of take that higher road, forgive him, and not carry that around anymore. That's and from what has that helped with your sleeping?
Tremendously. I haven't woken up since then. Since that day, I haven't woken up punching and swinging, again. That did it for me. That lifted that burden.
That's a beautiful thing for a lot of people to listen to, man, because everybody has resentments, and that's a big thing to let go of something like that. And,
yeah.
and a lot of freedom. I'm sure you've felt since then.
Big time, Pat. I mean, because I held that thing. I'm telling you, I was 57, I believe, when my dad, 57 or 58, my dad passed away. And I held that thing for a whole lot of years, man.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's and I'll keep this short, but the day the first space shuttle blew up was the day my dad died. It was on that day. He was dying of cancer, and his new wife, who was a year older than my sister, and my sister actually went after her at a football game once.
Oh, wow.
Wanted to kill her. We're Croatian, CT, so
wow.
we're psychopaths anyway. Being Croatian, you got no choice. We're lunatics. But when I was young at the time, in high school and stuff, and his ex-wife called. I wouldn't go see him. I refused to go see him after he moved out. And, I mean, the only reason I knew my dad, he was my 7th and 8th grade football coach, and he was a prick to me during football, I can tell you that. That's the sad thing about it. He was a great football coach, but he wasn't a great dad. But I saw him one time before he died. His new wife called and said, he's maybe got a day or two left. You really should come see him. So I went and saw him, and then he died, right after that. So
Did you feel better about having gone and seen him?
I didn't. And I cried more when I lost my German Shepherd that year than I cried when my dad died.
Wow.
So that's it is what it is. But I can feel you, and the fact that you were able to do that at that point in life and just release it all, man. That's a great thing.
Wow. It's crazy, but I was up in Palo Alto, California, on the waiting list. Me and my wife were up there waiting for the call. Okay, we got a heart for you, Mr. Fletcher. And when my dad passed away, and I kept, wondering how I would feel when, if I outlived my dad, how would I feel when he passed away? And I was sad that I wasn't that sad. I felt like I should be sadder or more hurt.
Right.
But I didn't go to the funeral, and I didn't shed a tear.
Right.
And I felt bad about not feeling worse.
Well, I can relate to that, my friend. I can relate to that. And how about we move on to something a little more positive? I know you trained in karate at some point in your life. Why don't you tell me about that?
I sure did. Yeah, I fought in point karate, which really, as I told a bunch of the fighters, they talk to me and they'll bring up the Joe Rogan asked me about it. I said, yeah, I don't really count that, because as soon as somebody scored a point, the referee would stop you and you go back.
Yeah, but you know what? I know for a fact back in those days, CT, that point fighting karate was smashing people still, right? You might have only got one blast or 3 blasts off.
Right.
People were getting their faces crushed.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And Billy Blanks was the world champion at the time.
Okay.
And Billy was killing people, man. Billy was wearing people out.
Yeah, so
do
you remember what style of karate it was you did?
Taekwondo, definitely.
Okay.
Taekwondo.
Right. So, I mean, this was back when, we're talking Lewis and a bunch of other guys were.
Yeah, Joe Louis.
Yeah, Joe Louis was a big name. Absolutely.
Yep.
I got
Billy Blanks.
See, they revamped it. I'm a tad younger than you are, and by the time I was in karate, they had revamped things, and so you get DQ'd for smashing people, and I kept getting DQ'd.
Right.
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 You know, I was ridge-handing people in the face or whatever, just blasting them with right hands or whatever, and you know, because I get mad because the guy'd throw a couple techniques that had missed me by, you know, a couple inches or whatever. I'd duck, get out of the way. And the referee'd stop it. The judge would stop it and go, point. And they'd give the guy a point. I go, what are you talking about? How did he get a point? He didn't hit me. And he goes, oh, no, he could have if he wanted.
Oh,
so I'm just like, it's over. It's done. I just fucking smash him, get DQ'd, get kicked out of the tournament, all that shit. So, yeah.
Now,
so I miss the fun days of karate.
Crazy. I would never have thought that Pat Miletich did any point fighting whatsoever. That's crazy.
Were you doing a lot of lifting at that time?
No. At that time, you know, I thought I wanted to be a fighter. Actually, that's what I really thought I wanted to be.
Okay.
And I soon found out that that's not really what I wanted to be. Because they had a tournament in Long Beach called the International Karate Championship.
Okay.
Ed Parker used to put it on every year.
Oh yeah.
And it was the biggest, you know, the biggest karate tournament in maybe the world at that time.
Right.
And then I went down there, Pat, and there was so many people in the stands, and I found out that I don't perform well in front of large crowds. I was nervous, man. I was big time nervous, and I forgot I forgot everything. As soon as the guy hit me, you know, everything that I had learned went out the window, and I just wanted to get him back. That's all I just remember. Oh no, I can't look bad with all these people looking, and it seemed like everybody in the stands went, ooh, when he kicked me in the head, it seemed like everybody went, ooh, at the same time. And all I could think about was getting them back, man.
So how much did you weigh at that time?
165. I was a middleweight.
Wow.
165. So you were a string bean.
Yeah, definitely.
The Ed Parker, isn't that where Bruce Lee first kind of showed up in the United States, that Ed Parker karate tournament way back in the day in the 60s?
That's right. That's exactly right. It's a very big tournament.
Yeah.
So you leave Taekwondo eventually, and do you go straight into lifting?
Joined the Army for a little while.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I was the Army and Taekwondo was all, same time. And I learned a lot in the Army. And then after the Army, after I figured out that fighting is not really what I wanted to do, then I started lifting weights.
And who taught you how to lift weights? Were there guys that taught you?
Yeah, it was a guy named Big Jim Britt, who they call him Stone Pony, was the one who got me into lifting weights, and he basically did it by making fun of me and talking shit, and that's basically got me started. You doing all that kicking and shit, but I bet you're not strong.
That's awesome.
And that's basically what got me in the gym.
So what year would that have been then?
80, 1980, I believe.
1980. Okay, so, jeez, I was 8th grade, somewhere in there.
Wrestling, probably.
Yeah, wrestling, and that was, kind of during the time where everybody wanted to be looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, everybody wanted to be a Schwarzenegger or a Sergio Oliva, one of the two.
Right.
Sergio.
Lou Ferrigno and Franco Colombo and all the boys. God, man, that's crazy.
That's that Pumping Iron roster.
That was
right
a kick-ass. That was a kick-ass documentary.
Absolutely. So is the second one.
So the during that era, man, it was kind of crazy. But I know that there was a blow up a little bit between you and Joe Rogan. Did Rogan accuse you of taking roids or something that pissed you off? What was the deal with that?
No.
Yeah, I'll let him explain. It's muscle.
Go ahead.
It's
Jay.
too much muscle. It was basically talking about Tyron Woodley.
Oh, yeah, he
Tyron
was
Woodley
saying
was
too much muscle and all that.
oxygen needs to go to the muscles, and it was very, I'm listening to CT's explanation of it. It really made sense, because I was always of that thought process too. The more muscle tissue, the more oxygen needs to go to it. But CT kind of explained why that's not necessarily all the time true.
Yeah, and I want to give my explanation to Pat and see what he thinks about it, because I actually brought up one of your fighters as an example. I told him there's a difference between born muscle and built muscle.
Right.
Born muscle is, you got guys that are just naturally born with more muscles than most other people. They're just naturally born more muscular and usually stronger than most other people. There's guys like that who just naturally built from birth.
Oh, absolutely.
And
yeah,
then you got
genetic
guys
freaks
who go in the gym and pump iron all the time, and and their muscles were made in the gym. So I call those built muscles, because they weren't born with them; they built them up in the gym.
Okay.
But the guys that are born with muscle, they usually don't have the problem of burning out and getting tired and stuff, because their muscles were natural from birth. So when God gave them those muscles, He also gave them the capacity to carry those muscles.
The heart and the lungs, the heart and the lungs, the vascular system to pump it.
All the other organs to assist with those muscles. They go along with those muscles because they were born with them.
Right.
So a fighter that's born more muscular won't have that problem. But if a fighter built all his muscles up in the gym, then he will have that problem. That's what I was telling Joe. There's a difference between born muscle and built up muscle.
Okay.
Muscle that you built in the gym.
No, that makes sense. And, me growing up here in the Midwest, I mean, when I'd wrestle, and I learned some hard lessons, wrestling guys who were, from tiny little farm towns, and I'm from a small town in Iowa. It's not a tiny, tiny farm town, but it's a small town considering, what most people are used to. And, I remember I learned my first lesson, CT. I was in Lisbon, Iowa, and I looked up at the bracket. They put the brackets up, before the tournament started. I looked up at the bracket, and I'm wrestling a guy named Royce Alger the first round of the tournament. And I think I'm in 8th grade at the time, 7th, 8th grade, and Alger was a year older than me at the time. And I don't know who Royce Alger is, and there's this kid standing next to me looking at the same bracket, and he's got these ratty, holy gray, stained sweats on. He's got a Minnesota Vikings hat on. The ball on top of it's got like 2 strings left of it, and he looks over at me. And he's got a nose that's as flat as his whole face. Right, his nose barely comes out at all. Just a rugged looking dude. And he looks at me and he goes, "You Milicic?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm Alger. I got you first round." I go, "All right, I'll see you out there." And I'm thinking I'm going to slaughter this guy. Look at this scrub. And I go out and get demolished. I'd never felt power like that in my life, man. And he's a farm kid, right? So I ended up wrestling with his brother in college. I went back to visit their farm. Royce Alger ended up being a 3-time national champion for the University of Iowa under Dan Gable, and a world gold medalist in freestyle, right? He's a beast.
Wow.
And I went back to their farm in college to visit, to hang out, and I spent a couple days at their farm. We get there, and the Alger boys are going into the pig house and grabbing the sows. The sows have just had their babies, and they're grabbing the sows, these 400-pound hogs, grabbing them by their ears and yanking them out and kicking their asses and throwing them down the aisle of the hog house, getting them out of there so they can clean the stalls. And I'm climbing up on the fences, getting the hell out of the way. I'm going, these guys are nuts. But that's in the Midwest and Iowa, stuff like that, that's that farm boy power, because they're used to lifting odd-shaped objects all day long and throwing shit around. So grabbing a human being and crushing them isn't a big deal.
Stephen Rusk or like a Matt Hughes.
Steve Rusk, Matt Hughes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's the example that I brought up with Joe, with Matt Hughes. I said, this guy is naturally built, naturally strong, and naturally probably. Matt Hughes is not going to gas out, but he's got muscles.
Right.
So he's not going to gas out.
No, and Hughes was, first time I wrestled with him, I couldn't believe how strong he was, and I asked him. He was offended. I go, we got done wrestling. We wrestled for, an hour and a half, and I'd never had somebody at 170 pounds be that strong. I'd never had anybody overpower me ever. And I mean, I had decent strength. I was benching 365 when I was in my senior year of high school. I was 165. I was benching 365 and got to where I could.
That's damn good.
But I mean, I was, I had good strength, and then as a professional athlete, I was pretty strong. So, but Hughes, I couldn't believe how strong he was. He felt like an piece of iron. And I asked him when we got done, I go, dude, what are you on? And he goes, what do you mean? And I go, what are you taking? He goes, what do you mean? And I go, are you on steroids? He goes, don't ever fucking accuse me of that again. Don't ever accuse me of that again. And he never was. He was never on anything. He was just that strong.
Wow.
Yep. See, that is totally believable to me. Now, we also, Joe and I also talked about that, and about steroids. And one of my biggest regrets, Pat, is that I let peer pressure or other people, I was coming up and I want to be, you said in the time of Arnold and Franklin, and I wanted to be in magazines and on the cover and shit like them guys. So I let peer pressure. I was naturally strong and not that big. I was 165, but I had naturally six-pack and veins and stuff like that.
Right.
Without, I didn't even know what steroid was. Just like you just mentioned, Matt, I didn't even know what a steroid was. I had 20-inch arms and didn't even know what a steroid was.
Jeez.
But because I let other guys say, hey, you want to be on the cover like Arnold, you want to be in the magazines, like you want to make a living at this, you want to make some money, you're going to have to take steroids. And so that's my biggest regret. I tried them. I tried them for about a year. So it's not a straight year because they told you to take, at that time, they would take 2 months on and 2 months off. That was the thing that they told you back then. And that's from the doctor, because at that time you go right in. I went right into Kaiser and got my prescription, and the doctor at Kaiser gave me my steroids. So, but I still regret it to this day that I let peer pressure or other people talk me to even trying them. I wish I could say that I never done it, but I'd be lying if I did. And people, they still give me a hard time about, oh, no, you like somebody exposed me, and nobody could expose me because nobody knew me back, that many years ago. I told it myself, just trying to be honest. And people, oh man, you're not natural. I said, well, that was 36, 35 years ago. So I kind of think, maybe that qualifies. Yeah, I had 6 months where I wasn't, but I had 36 years where I didn't take anything. So I don't know if you call me natural or not. Really, I don't give a fuck. You can think whatever you want to think of. So it don't matter.
I think it got out of your system after a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the only other story I can tell you is I wrestled a guy. I won't say his name because I won't throw him under the bus or anything because I don't know if he's ever said anything about it. In high school, I wrestled a guy who we were in the locker room, and one of my high school teammates, who was a great wrestler, Waddell, one of the Waddell boys, starts laughing. He's on the other side of the locker room. He goes, "Oh, Milicic," he goes, "come here, man." And we're getting ready to go out to wrestle these guys. And I know who I've got to wrestle. I know I've got to wrestle the number one guy in the state. And he points up at the physical fitness award records of the school on the wall. He goes, "Dude, look up there." He goes, "Look at what Davini did. This guy." Oh,
you said his name.
So I said his name. So anyway, I look up there, and he holds a school record for 68 pull-ups in a certain amount of time or whatever. And I'm thinking, I'm in high school, dude. I'm not doing 68 pull-ups in a day. So I went out, dude. I went out and I got thrown clean off the mat, through the bench, through the chairs, and got up and looked at my coach as I walked back on the mat, and he just shrugged his shoulders like, "I don't know what to tell you, dude.
Go back out there.
Good luck.
It's still your motherfucking set."
But he ended up getting. I think he ended up burning out in college because of that, because he was trying to roid in college during wrestling.
Yeah. Interesting stories as always from Mr. Pat Milicic. So, as Pat kind of said, you've gone through so many different incarnations in your life, powerlifting world champion, motivational speaker. I mean, you truly, man, at this stage of your life, you You are a survivor, sir, and something I told you in our last interview when we spoke, and I hope you didn't take exception to it, but for me, it's absolutely true. You've transcended your sport. You've transcended what you started out to do. I mean, you really are in that vein of like a Muhammad Ali, and I am just, and I can't, I mean, I'm not going to bore you with the story, but you've helped change my life. You're part of the reason why I'm sitting here next to Pat Miletich, and it's a very powerful thing. So how do you take in that kind of, not just a responsibility, but you're changing millions of lives, sir? How does that feel? Not a lot of people can say that they're changing millions of people's lives for the better, and you are.
Well, Jeff, when I hear you say that, first of all, thank you very much. But when I hear you say that, it sounds like you're talking about somebody else, because people, that is my motivation now. That is, when I first started out, all I wanted to do was be the biggest, strongest, baddest motherfucker on the planet. That's all.
Right.
But it was all I. And after going through the things that I've been through, I realized how unimportant and insignificant I am. It's not about I at all. When somebody tells me, CT, you helped change my life, oh man, that's what gets me up. That's what drives me. That is my magnificent obsession now. That's my motivation, man. But me, I'm thinking, me, who the hell am I? I'm nobody. But for me for somebody to tell me that something I said or something I went through or something that happened to me touched their life, I can't think of a more motivating thing in this world than that. So you just motivated the hell out of me, Jeff.
Yeah, man. I wouldn't bore you with the story, but I mean, it's helping people, like in one of your videos, which really did it, unchain your mind, fuck fear. A lot of us, man, we're oftentimes our own worst enemy, and if we just get ourselves out of our own way, we can do way more than we possibly think we can. And sometimes fear is a part of it. We listen to other people's narrative of, oh, you'll never be able to do that. With my first episode, it was with Pat Miletich, and I told myself, you know what, worst he could say is no. And he wound up coming on not just one time, but 4 times. And the many of guests I had, which you were included, I just never would have done it unless I just had that belief that it's possible. And the worst you could say is no, but at least, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Can't hit a home run without swinging.
Exactly.
Well, I tell you, by you getting Pat Miletich is a big-ass reason you got me.
So I'm just going to say this. I've got it written on my chalk. So I've got a chalkboard in my room, in my office. The chalkboard basically, it's my wall. My wall is painted in chalkboard paint, CT. And so I can just write notes down up there. Stuff that pops into my head, I just throw it up there, right? And I've got something written down called Heritage Brand. And the Heritage Brand would be like Levi's, something that's been with America forever. You know what I mean? And when I think about the name CT Fletcher, I mean, that should be on your website. It should say CT Fletcher, a heritage brand. That's what your website, that's what it should be underneath your name. You need to throw that up.
Oh, hold on.
We lost you for a second. Hold on. Dang it.
There,
we got you?
Yeah.
I'm here.
Okay,
all right,
cool.
Good.
Well, before we let you slide and get into a little bit of what you're up to now, I know one of your people you wanted to meet was Pat Miletich, so you guys have met. Another person I saw online, you finally had a chance to meet The Rock. What was that like?
Incredible. I told him that as a kid growing up, his dad, Rocky Johnson, Rocky Soul Man, was my hero. That I really looked up to him, and he told me. We talked, we got close, and he said that, well, CT, you didn't live with them. And, man, I understood that. So, Pat, I understood that so deeply because my dad was a preacher. And, I mean, they had people in the church that absolutely worship my dad. And they would be telling me how wonderful my dad is. And I'd be thinking to myself, but you don't live with this motherfucker.
Wow.
You don't know You don't you see what you see at church, but you don't know how this guy is at home. So when The Rock told me that, he said, but you didn't live with him, and I only see my dad. He would tell me like 2 weeks out of the year. Said that resonated with me big time.
Wow.
And his dad was no longer my favorite after that short talk that we had.
Right.
And the son became my favorite after that. I tell you, he's a real down-to-earth person. I was very shocked that he even knew who the fuck I was, first of all. And, he stopped his workout, and I didn't want to interrupt him. Stopped his workout, came over, hey, CT, and gave me a hug like we've been knowing each other for 25, 30 years.
That's
man.
awesome.
So it was great. Yeah.
So
He's a very good person.
Who else did you idolize growing up?
Well, Muhammad Ali, I was even very big time. I as a kid, we had a play at school, and that's who I was. I did a Muhammad Ali speech. So, later on, I actually had my name legally changed to CT Ali Fletcher. And that was in reverence to Muhammad Ali.
Wow.
That's how much respect I had for him.
Wow. That is heavy.
I remember sitting on the couch, eating popcorn, little kid, watching Ali and Smoking Joe Frazier going at it. And I couldn't have been more than four. Dude, I couldn't have been more. I didn't even know what year that fight was, the first fight. I don't know how old I was. I had to be 3 or 4 years old. I probably barely had teeth to eat popcorn, and I still remember watching that fight. Frazier was my favorite fighter of all time.
I honestly remember, I had to have been one of his last, and I probably was maybe 5 or 6, his fight against Larry Holmes, which Larry Holmes just destroyed him. And Joe Louis was ringside that night and died the next day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I think Larry felt bad about it, but he did destroy him.
Yeah.
But I think he did feel bad about it because Ali was an idol of his,
right.
When he was coming up.
Former sparring partner.
Didn't have to.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah.
So
didn't have to do that to him. He knew he was, declined quite a bit,
Right.
and he felt bad about doing it, but
I'm sure
he did it though.
Right.
Yeah. So tell us, I want to hear, kind of how your days go nowadays with your, what are you doing now to kind of rebuild yourself and everything else since the surgery? What are your days like, CT?
Well, I have physical therapy twice a week at the VA. I go over there and let my physical therapist Trevor put me through the paces and climbing stairs and whatnot. And I tell you, for you guys that don't know, if you had a heart transplant, climbing stairs is a motherfucker. It's
I
rough,
imagine.
man. I mean, the last thing I want to see is a flight of stairs. But it's just starting. This is not the first time I had to start all over again from ground zero.
Right.
After the first operation in 2005, I had to start all over again. So I'm starting all over again, but this time I'm 59 years old. So I was 45 back then. I'm 59 this time. So it's a little bit different. But I tell you what, Pat, I am a determined son of a bitch.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do it. I mean, I'm doing. I believe in doing no fuck excuses, and I'm doing the best I can. I walked, my first mile a couple of weeks ago, and I'm up to 2 miles now, and going up and down the stairs 6 times. So it's getting there.
So wait a minute. All right, so you're up to 6 times going up the stairs?
Yes.
That's awesome. I can tell you that I do stair workouts just to do stair workouts because I trained for a race in the Rocky Mountains one time, and I just got in the habit of doing stairs. And I can tell you with whatever I got in my chest, it's supposed to be a good heart. That shit's hard. So you're doing it with a heart transplant. Hats off to you, man.
Well, and in another aspect of how dedicated you are, in another video, I forget exactly how long it was out of surgery, my man, but you were just... It was crazy to watch because you were running, trying to get your run on your sprint, and you fell, and you kind of split your nose open a little bit. But, towards the end of that video, you were already, just straight up, no excuses, motherfucker. Steal your motherfucking set. But you had, again, a part of your spiritual growth. You already couldn't give up. But because of the individual, because of, like you said, no fault of their own, lost their life, and you got their heart, you kind of have redoubled your efforts to not give up, in almost respect for that life that was lost, for you to get, your third chance at life.
Absolutely. I mean, so many people were telling me, because I announced that, as soon as I can, I'm going to get back to work. And people were telling me that, I was crazy and that that's just stupid as fuck and that I don't appreciate the gift that I've been given. And I totally disagree with those people. And I said, the way that I can really show how much I appreciate it is by getting my ass up and getting to work and trying to spread the word of donor awareness. But I mean, I owe it to the person who gave me their heart. I owe it to them because that person was not expecting for their life to end whenever it ended. Right. I mean, they were expecting probably to live a nice, long life. Yeah. And so life is not, I mean, when people say that you never know, that is so true. You have no idea when your time is going to be up. So you don't have any time to waste. Mm-hmm. I have no time to waste, zero time to waste. I have no idea when my time will be up, but I do know that as long as I have some time, as long as my set, I'm going to be working my ass off. When you find me, I'm going to be working my ass off. I'm going to be trying. I won't be sitting around talking about my fucking ankles hurt or my wrist hurt. I won't be whining and crying about a goddamn thing. I'll be out there trying. I'll be trying to the day I fucking die.
I love it. I love it. And
that's awesome.
So who documented the first cuss word that came out of your mouth after surgery?
It probably was my wife, Pat. She's always got a phone handy, so it was probably her.
I think I remember an F-bomb being dropped right post-op, not too long post-op. You still had your gown on and stuff. I think I remember an F-bomb being dropped. Ain't nothing changed in CT.
Most definitely.
That's awesome.
That's beautiful.
Still laying there in the hospital bed, all swollen up with water and barely able to sit up. But as soon as I could talk, I said, fuck.
Yep, he's fine.
That's awesome.
Hey, my man, before we let you slide, shout out any websites, any social networking, anywhere where we can track down your progress, what you're up to, your future plans.
How to get the clothing.
Yeah, Iron Addicts.
Yeah. CTFletcher.com. CTFletcher.com, you can find all the YouTube, CT Fletcher Motivation, Instagram, all that stuff is on CTFletcher.com and Patreon.com. And also, I'd like to announce that I'll be on the Channel 5 Morning News this Tuesday. So if you ain't doing shit, tune in and watch the old man talk.
Beautiful, CT. Man, I'm honored and can't thank you enough for coming on with Jeff and I. And considering you already dislike Jeff so much, I got lucky. But, dude, no, it really is. It's an honor, man. Ever since years ago when I saw that video. How long has that video been out? When did you make that video?
About 5 years.
Yeah.
I saw that video and almost shit my pants. And
Hulk smash.
Hulk smash.
Ever since that video, I've been wanting to talk to you. So timidly wanting to talk to you. Sneak up.
Believe me, we were both a little nervous before this conversation. And CT, again, I can't thank you enough, sir. It's so great to hear your voice. It's so great that you're doing well. Again, you've helped change my life and millions of others. And, just keep doing that amazing, amazing work.
Keep getting better, buddy.
Thank you, Pat. Still my set, Jeff.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for having me on. It was my honor. Thank you very much.
Much love, sir.
That's CT Fletcher, ladies and gentlemen. Take care.